You've heard of phishing scams, but have you heard about pretexting? And why should you even care? The Verizon Security Report has data that suggests 50% of all social engineering attacks are pretexting incidents. And in 2023, it nearly doubled that of last year's total. So how do they work? Well, pretexting attacks are successful because they prey on human psychology. The attackers tend to be conveying somebody of authority to try and trick their victim into giving up their information or taking other actions that could compromise the organization. But the big difference in pretexting is the effort attackers spend researching their victims and crafting their pretexts accordingly. For example, the attacker might call a victim and pretend to be a bank employee. The attacker might then tell the victim that their account has been compromised and that they need certain bits of information in order to gain access to their account before they share this sensitive information with them. The attacker might then also try to trick the victim into installing a security program or some other software onto their machine in order to protect their account. One of the things that I had started to think myself when reading about pretexting is, why is this any different to all the other very targeted phishing attacks we've seen over the years? We hear about whaling and essentially phishing attacks targeting specific senior leaders within organizations. Why do we need to communicate this as pretexting as opposed to just one of these other ways of explaining more targeted attacks? It sounds to me like it's still very much focused on the approach taken, like the use of text messages, more having conversations, trying to get people onto WhatsApp, trying methods that aren't traditionally linked to those methods that we talk about, like whaling, where it's still very targeted, does involve lots more research, but more of the approach still is just very much focused on just phishing a CEO or somebody as a CEO, or trying to target them using these phishing methods. But it does sound very similar. I'm really skeptical as to why we even need to use it. Maybe it's just a more general term, where pretexting is just, it's more targeting specific people with very specific information, whereas whaling is more about targeting senior leadership and CEOs and all these sorts of organizations. So maybe it's just that the FBI and Verizon feel the need to specifically call out that pretexting is just a generic, more targeted approach to phishing attacks, and there's more and more of it happening, which is why it's important to talk about it. It's definitely the case where they are trying to make it more personalized and in general try and move, the conversation away from, hey, I need your help in business, I just need your help in general. I'm a person, I'm a human being. If I'm the CEO, I also have days where it's difficult and I need somebody else to help me out. We talked about this in the past actually, about LinkedIn being used for this because they know that people have moved and they don't want to let their new CEO down if the CEO suddenly calls them. But we're also seeing pretexting attacks where they're targeting employees that have been in the organization for long periods of time. And I suspect that that's only happening because the attackers are now coming across their targets later on in the journey. So it's not like that kind of immediate try and target somebody who's just joined a business. Now it's about targeting anybody in the business, irrespective of whether they're new or they've been around for a long period of time. But certainly, trying to build that kind of personal relationship as opposed to like a business, I need you to do this because I'm the CEO, will definitely have a better impact. And I'm sure they realise that, which is why they're targeting people with this pretexting approach. The funniest thing happened, we were putting the script together for this video, and the Friday night I received a message on Teams from one of our US employees, well actually two of our US employees, saying, hey, you didn't just text message me, did you? And I never use text messaging. Maybe I'm sharing too much information, but I wouldn't text people, especially not in business. And so I said to them, share a screenshot, and it transpires that somebody had tried to attempt a pretexting attack against two of our US employees by saying, hey, let me know if you get this text message. And the weirdest thing was, we'll share the screenshot of it in the post or in the video. The funny thing is, it actually says my name and then it says CEO of defense.com. So they actually hashed it up. So maybe it's not a pretexting attack because they didn't know enough about, or they hadn't thought enough about how you would text somebody. It seemed almost automated in a sense that they just kind of grabbed some information from somewhere and then tried to reuse that information and just dump it into a text message and send. So it was a pretty poor pretexting attack, I must say, because pretexting attacks obviously normally sort of fairly well researched, so they should research it and see, well, I wouldn't end a text message with my full name and job title, so pretty useless. But maybe that explains the reasons why we're seeing an increase in these as well. They're obviously successful for some attackers, and now we're starting to see that hit more and more organizations, and even hitting cybersecurity professionals as well. Here are the top 5 things to look out for when you're concerned that your employees are being targeted with pretexting attacks. It will definitely be different to your typical phishing emails, so look out for these key things. Firstly, personalization. Pretexting attacks are always highly personalized. They're targeting specific individuals or groups of people. Phishing emails, on the other hand, are typically more generic and are sent to a large number of people. But then got urgency. So these attacks are often trying to create a sense of urgency for the victim, making them feel like they need to do it as quickly as possible without even thinking about it. Very similar to phishing emails, they also do try to generate that urgency, but they are less likely to be as personalized or targeted. Trust. The attackers will try to exploit a victim's trust. For example, they may pose as a trusted colleague or friend, having done all their research, or even a family member. Phishing emails, on the other hand, are more likely to be impersonal. They may have some simple tricks to try and make you think that it's coming from a legitimate organization, but generally speaking, it's very impersonal. Complexity. Pretexting attacks can be quite complex, and they involve multiple steps and interactions with the victim, whereas traditional phishing emails are just one and done emails. And phone calls. More often than not, they'll try to involve a phone call of some form, as well as an email or a text, in order to try and generate that understanding or trying to build out the confidence in the end user or the target victim. Phishing emails, on the other hand, are typically the only form of communication used by your average opportunistic attacker. Now, according to the FBI, pretexting attacks are one of the most common types of cybercrime. In 2021, the FBI received over 86,000 reports of pretexting attacks, with losses totaling over $3.3 billion. Another huge case of pretexting fraud was back in 2019, when attackers caused Target to face losses of up to $420 million by posing as employees of the company's HVAC contractors. So be wary of any requests for urgent action from people in your business. If you're asked to provide personal information such as account numbers or credit card numbers, ask why the information is needed and how it be used. Then try to verify the identity of the person contacting you. And finally, be careful of opening attachments in emails or clicking on links in text messages. Pretexting attackers often use malicious attachments and links to infect devices with malware. If you think you've fallen victim to a pretexting attack, we'd love to hear about it so you can share your story. You should change your passwords and enable two-factor authentication on all accounts to protect yourself, especially if you're reusing passwords, which you shouldn't be doing anyway. Hope you found this video informative. Please like and share and interact below so we can spread the word on better protecting against pretexting attacks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.